and then calling in and speaking to a counselor. Usually if you've talked to a bankruptcy attorney and they've advised you to file bankruptcy, when you call the credit counselor, they're like, yeah, you can go ahead and file.
Yeah.
But it's required. And then after you file, there's a financial management course. It's different forms, but it's usually 2 hours of education about budgeting and finance and what is compounding interest and, just basic knowledge, hoping that, if you take away anything, it'll help you avoid refiling again in the future.
So have you ever experienced having someone that got out of bankruptcy, you find that they're back in it after it's been done, or is that very rare?
It's rare, but, is the people that come back, they just have bad luck a lot of times. I mean, you don't find people overspending. If people start to overspend, it's, there's some other issue. Irresponsibility is not anywhere near a common cause. I've had people that went through depression and spent money on their credit card, but it's not because they were irresponsible. It's because they were depressed. But the one that, when people ask me that, I had somebody that had to file 3 times. Okay. They had, the first time they had a premature baby. And that's where I get the comment about $200,000. That was about how much they had in medical bills. Medical bills go away in bankruptcy. After that, they both became realtors. And then the 2006, 2007 recession hit. Realtors didn't make any money, and they had been investing. So they had filed in early 2000 and because of medical. Then they had to file because they lost their jobs. Basically, there was no one buying or selling, and they were flipping, and they were trying to invest. And then after that, they ended up filing in their, late 2000s because the husband got cancer. Not the other client I was talking about, but he got sick. So now they had rebuilt again, and one of them got sick, and they still had 3 kids. They were teenagers now, but it's very rare that it's just irresponsibility. It's a life, giving people a tough choice and saying, okay, you can either use the tool that it's available and move forward, or you can struggle for years and years and years. And fortunately, they understood that this is not a statement about us. This is just simply, life gave us this, and this is the best tool to deal with it.
That's really good to think. Just by saying that, you definitely dismantled the myth of it's because of finances. You know what I'm saying? It could be any situation under any circumstances that we have to file bankruptcy. And so can you go to jail for the debts that will occur? No,
we don't have debtors' prisons.
Ooh, that's a good thing.
No, the closest thing you could have is a judge could hold you in contempt if you flat out refused to maybe pay child support or something. If you had the ability and chose not to, a judge could hold you in contempt, but it's not because it's a debt. It's because you're violating a judge's order. But no, there's no debtor's prisons. If you charge up Bank of America credit card, there's no way you're going to end up in jail just because you didn't pay Bank of America. Yeah.
Well, what wisdom can you share for young people starting out? Yes.
I could give a whole class on that. Just budgeting. Young people need to take basic accounting classes in college or something, and understand budgets. People, I run into a lot of people that they look at the rules for lending. To buy a house. Bank says the max you can have is, let's say, 31%. 31% of your gross income can be a mortgage payment. But that's the max. So why do you need a mortgage payment that is 31%? My mortgage payment is 10% of my income, and I did that on purpose. And people, when they're doing their budgets, they don't count into the annualized costs. Let's say you have an HOA that's due once a year. Divide that by 12 when you're doing your budget. Let's say you have tags on your vehicles. How many people think about tags on their vehicles? That's That's $12 a month. That's Netflix, right? And then people own pets, and the annualized cost there. Say you have to get a license, you have to get heartworm, flea and tick treatments, of shots, and a visit. That's $400 average to own a pet. Plus, you got to feed it. And how many people divide $400 a year in when they're doing their budget? You know, you need to when you're doing a budget, you need to take a class and really understand how to do a budget, or go online somewhere maybe that has a really good detailed budget, because there's clothing budget, there's grooming budgets. Some ladies like to dye their hair. That's a little expensive. It needs to go into the monthly budget. So there's a lot of things there. But when you own a home, you don't look at your mortgage payment as your cost of ownership, because it's probably 150% of your mortgage payment. So let's say your mortgage payment is $1,000. You need to budget $1,500, because every 5 to 10 years, you're going to have to buy an AC outside unit. Let's say every 7 years, you're going to buy a compressor or an outside unit for your AC. And then inside, you're going to have to upgrade that every 10 years. And then they say you're going to have to upgrade your roof every 15 to 20 years. So let's say a roof is $12,000 for your house. And you're in your budget, you're going to say, my roof's going to last 20 years. So you have to take $12,000 divided by 240 and put that into your budget. And then your AC unit, let's say you're going to replace the inside and outside every 10 years. And that's $6,000. You divide the $6,000 by 120 months, and then that goes into your budget. And then your windows, they're not going to last forever. And you're going to need to paint. You're going to have to pressure wash it. You're going to have to paint it. You're going to have to paint the inside, the outside. You're going to have regular housing maintenance for faucets, doorknobs, lights, switches, flooring, whether it's carpet, tile, whatever. Those are all costs. And then your driveway, it's going to get stained and need pressure washed. And then maybe it's going to need sealed if it's paver. It maybe need replaced after 25 years if it's a slab of concrete that cracks. You've got trees, shrubberies. So your cost of own, when you're doing a budget, you not just look at what is my little bill I got to pay every month, but really when you're doing a budget, you need to look at your total cost of living. And so I would teach a whole class to young people about how to figure out what it really costs to own a home,
Well, I'm glad you mentioned it, because I was going to ask you, do you offer courses like that? Do you offer a class or a seminar from your business for a prevention bankruptcy or prevention?
No, I wish I had the time.
Paul, you got to have the time. That's powerful.
My time of keeping my business, running myself, running my cash flow analysis, doing my budgets for home and business and all that. I'd love to. Many people ask me about that.
Is that something you'll consider in the future then, or probably?
Yeah, if I get busy enough and I have enough people working for me, so I don't have to be at the office all the time. That's my retirement plan. I'll be offering classes in 2025.
That's awesome. So, hey, when it comes to the myths of bankruptcy, I know I've had one, is that the bankruptcy lasts on your credit for like 8 to 10 years. How long does bankruptcy last on your credit?
Well, based on my current reading, it does stay for 10 years. It is a derogatory public record. Okay. So you'll see public record section of your credit report, and that's, usually 10 years. But you'll see judgments and other types, IRS tax liens, they'll stay for 10 years. But remember, your credit report is logarithmic, meaning that what you did last month is way more important than what you did 10 years ago. So creating some random numbers so I can do them in my head here, just pretending. Let's say you filed bankruptcy and a month later you pulled your credit score. Let's say it'd be down 125 points, 150 points. Let's say 150. 12 months after the bankruptcy, you could have been a 700, but you're going to lose 125 points because you filed bankruptcy a year ago. 2 years later, you could have been a 700, but you filed bankruptcy 2 years ago, so they're going to lose 75 points. Then it's 50, then it's 35, then it's 25, then it's 15, 10, 10, 5, 5, and then it eventually falls off. But it's all about what you do, and that's why I tell my clients to focus on what you do after. You need to get new credit data to make the old credit data matter even less. Because you filed bankruptcy 2 years ago and you could have been a 600. You could have been a 600. That's because you don't have any new data. But creating the new data pushes you up. Your credit utilization, because you're only charging those little bills I was talking about, credit utilization factors go up. Now you could be a 700 instead of a 600. You've got 2 accounts and you've paid on time for 12 months. You could have been a 725, but you have a bankruptcy, so now you're 650. Not creating new data to push your score potential up means that the bankruptcy drags you down. So if you're starting with a lot of my clients in the 500s, bankruptcy's over, they start building credit data. They could have been, 600s. They could have been 700s. I had a client 18 months after bankruptcy get a 0% loan from Ford because his credit score was 720 with a bankruptcy 18 months ago. He just did everything he could to build his credit for the 12 months and went and got a brand new Ford, 0% interest, 18 months after his bankruptcy.
Speechless. So tell us, how can someone get in contact with you?
Well, they can call my office, 321-504-9935. Or they can check out the website. But we don't, there's rules, so we can't go out and contact and solicit people. We're attorneys, even though we're bankruptcy attorneys, we're still attorneys. So people need to check the website, daileylaw.com, DALEYLAW.com. That has all of our location and phone numbers. Or you can call the 321-504-9935.
So I know you shared a lot with us, and there's definitely some really vital information. Is there anything you would like to add on to what you said to kind of close us out with that you probably didn't think of, or you might want to just share?
Well, it's a free consultation. If you're stressed or think you have a debt problem, then the best thing to do is to talk. I have had friends, like I've met you, and there's a lot of people that we haven't know in common that they said, you know what, I don't think I want to file, but I want to know what my options are. And that's one of my slogans when I was doing websites and business cards is know your options, know the law. Google didn't go to law school, but I did. So, it's really, talk to us sometimes early, because if, you're thinking about paying off your car in order to free up the money to pay your credit cards, that could be a bad choice based on your situation. If you're getting a lump sum of money and, a severance, and you have debts, I've consulted with people that said, look, you're getting that severance and you owe the IRS money, and that money's not going away. Let's pay the IRS. Let's pay the student loans. Then whatever's left, let's try and look for the new job and pay those creditors. But let's get rid of the ones that aren't going to go into bankruptcy. And let's not pay off the car that then creates an asset, because you're just turning cash into a vehicle that can be turned into cash. So you're creating assets. So, in one of those situations, it was like, all right, he's going to get 6 months severance because he's getting let go. And we paid off the IRS. We paid off the wife's student loan. And he took what was left and did some marketing and resumes and got a new suit. And, he came back. I saw him the other day and he's like, hey, I didn't have to file. But if I did, I was in a good situation. So getting the consultation when you feel stressed can sometimes help to, towards planning and knowing what the outcomes is, because the education makes you make a better choice.
Yeah, because I think too, I know for me, when I have to face something, it's kind of scary because it's so overwhelming, especially with all the stuff I owe, and the credit and all of that stuff. But I know when I did come see you that it relieved some of the stress, even though you gave me a big old pile of paper. But it still made me take charge. And I think that's basically what you're saying. Don't ignore what's going on in your life, to take charge, make a personal commitment
Yeah.